Alright, so now that we're done with our header, let's take a look at building out the next part of this application. And that's going to be this stock list that we have in our main content area of the dashboard. Let's head back to our editor, and inside of app.js we'll create a div underneath the subheader with the class name of styles dashboard content. And then inside of dashboard content we're going to have another div, which is going to be a class name of styles dashboard content container. And in app module CSS we're going to add a few styles to these classes. So the dashboard content is going to have a background color, and if you go to index.css, I've added a dashboard bg variable which is f1 f1 f1, and we're going to assign that as the background color here. And then let's give it a padding of 20 pixels or 40 pixels top and bottom and 20 left and right. And then we're going to say that the dashboard content container, that's going to have a width of var, it's going to have a max width of var site width, and the margin is going to be 0 auto. So that'll make sure that we line up correctly with what's in our header. So going back to our app.js, just make sure everything's saved. And now you can see that we have this little stripe of gray here. And I think what we'll do is we'll go back to app module.css and we'll give this a height of 70 VH just for now, and we'll change that later. But that'll give us a little bit more to work with here now. So let's get started on our stock list. In source and components, I'm going to create a new component called stocklist, and we're going to call it stocklist JSX. And here we'll have a functional component, and we'll also create the stocklist module CSS file, and we'll import that so we have the styles ready to go. And we'll accept the stocks here, and we'll say styles.stocklist container, and we're going to have a div with a class name of styles header, and we're going to have we're going to rename this just to keep it short. That's one of the benefits with modules. And let's see, what else? We'll add an h2 and say, and then underneath here we're going to put a So just to explain what I'm thinking, I'm just in my head trying to visualize how this is going to look and how I'm going to match it up with this. So the header that I've just created is going to be this top part with the border and the Oslo Exchange text. And then I want to have a list underneath that header. but that list is going to have a header of its own, and it's going to contain all of these headers here that are above the actual list, and then the list will have to line up with that. So we'll have to keep that in mind when we're building out our structure. So I'm going to create a div, and I'm going to call it list headers, and then inside of there I'm going to have all of the list headers, and then we'll have an unordered list down at the bottom, and we'll give that a class name of styles stocklist, and close that up. So let's go ahead and just add all of the headers. So we're gonna have a div class name styles name header, and we're gonna say name, and we'll copy that, and we'll have styles. Let's go back and see. We'll have name, ticker, ask, and bid. So we have ticker header, and it's going to say ticker, and then we have the ask, and it's going to say ask, and the bid header, and then we have the dividend per share, which we're going to say DPS, and dividend per 1,000. So DPS header, dividend per share, and then DP dividend per spent header, dividend per 1,000 spent, and then we're gonna have PE and sector. So PE header, and we're gonna say PE, and we're gonna say sector, and this will be the sector header. All right, and make sure we return all of this, and let's get started importing it in app.js. So inside of our dashboard content container, we'll put the stock list, and you'll see my auto import is helping me out here. So I get the import for free, and then we'll place that right in the middle of our dashboard content container. And if everything goes according to plan, then we'll have that here, and it's lining up with our header, so that's perfect. And now we need to get started styling it a little bit. So let's go back to our stock list module CSS, and we'll grab the container class, and we'll say that we want the container to have a background color of FFF, which is white, and spell that correctly. And then we want to have a padding of 15 pixel, and we want a border radius of 3 pixel, maybe 5. And then we want And I think I'm actually going to take this border radius and put it into a variable. So I'm going to say box border radius 5 pixels. So like that. And let's take a look. All right, so we're getting somewhere. Now let's tackle the header. We're going to grab the header and we'll give this a class name as well. Heading. So the header is going to have a padding on the top of 10 pixels and 0 on the left and right. And then we'll have a border of 1 pixel solid gray. And it's only going to be on the bottom. And perhaps we'll make it 2 pixels. And let's say we'll have a margin bottom of 15 pixels. And I think, oops, we'll increase the padding to 20 pixels. And let's see what we have here. All right, so let's look at the header next. And I want to just check here. So I think it's, oops. I think it's a dark gray color, probably 58. All right, so it's not playing along, but we'll just take a shot at how it looks. And we'll say font size 1.5 rem. 0.9 rem. That's better. And I think I'm not too happy with that dark gray and bold. So let's try and say font weight normal or 200, 300. Then, all right, maybe I haven't added the correct fonts, but we'll say font size 0.9 and we'll say D1, D1, D1. By the way, 1D, 1D, 1D. All right, so a slightly, not quite black, but blackish color. And I think we'll take this 0.9 rem and put it into a variable. And we'll say h1 font size. And I'm going to change that to a variable. And I'm also going to go back to our stock lists, change this to an h1. And now we need to adjust this a little bit. Yeah. All right, so let's see what's next. We need to add our list items and we need to get started lining up the header and the list item. So let's focus on that next. So inside of stock list, let's create a function, and we're going to call it render list items, and we're going to take the stocks and we're going to map over each one, and we're going to return a list item, and it's going to have a class name of styles stock list item. And now we need to plug in the values that we get from our data set. So let's go ahead and go to our data set, and we'll copy this over just so we have something to look at. So we'll put that here and comment it out. So we need a container for the name. So we're just going to call this list item, and this is going to be the list item name, and we're going to put in stock.name, and then we're going to have the ticker, and we're going to say div class name of styles ticker list item ticker stock.ticker, and the next is going to be the ask. So we'll add a class name of list item ask, and we'll say stock.ask, and we're going to add a list item bid, and we'll say stock.bid. So we're lining them up with, or the data with our data set here. And we're going to add the next part, which is dividend per share, and we are going to have a list item DPS, and inside here we'll have a function that says get dividend per share, and we're going to have to create this function, and we'll pass in a stock. So for now we'll just create a dummy function here so it doesn't crash. So get dividend per share, and we're going to accept the stock, and then this is not going to do anything right now. And the next one is dividend per 1,000 spent. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to say get dividend per 1,000 spent, and we'll create the same, and we'll accept the stock, and let's just return 22 and return 200 here. All right, and then finally we have a couple of more. So we have the PE and the sector. So let's go ahead and add those, and we'll change this to list item dividend per 1,000, and this is going to be the PE, and we're going to say get stock PE, and we'll say const get stock PE, and we'll do the same here. So we're just returning dummy values right now, just to get this to work, and focusing on just getting it on the screen and styling it. So the last one is the sector, and we're gonna say list item sector, and we're gonna plug in the list item, sorry, stock sector. All right, and let's give each list item a key of stock.ticker, and then we'll go ahead and remove our data set, and we'll plug this in right in the middle of our stock list. And let's save, and we'll go back to app.js, and we'll say stocks, and we'll pass it in as data.stocks. So we'll give that as a props to our stock list component. Now let's take a look at what we have so far. All right, so now we have all of the data from our data set is now being rendered to the screen, and our next job is to clean it up and make it look pretty. So we're going to tackle that in the next lesson. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm excited to get started on this. So I'll see you there.